A newlywed couple moves into their new house. One day the husband comes home from work and his wife says, "Honey, you know, in the upstairs bathroom, one of the pipes is leaking. Could you fix it?" The husband says, "What do I look like, Mr. Plumber?" A few days go by, and he comes home from work, and his wife says, "Honey, the car won't start. I think it needs a new battery. Could you change it for me?" He says, "What do I look like, Mr. Goodwrench?" Another few days go by, and it's raining pretty hard. The wife finds a leak in the roof. She says, "Honey, there's a leak on the roof. Can you please fix it?" He says, "What do I look like, Bob Vila?" The next day, the husband comes home, and the roof is fixed. So is the plumbing. So is the car. He asks his wife what happened. "Oh, I had a handyman come in and fix them," she says. "Great. How much is that going to cost me?" he snarls. The wife says, "Nothing. He said he'd do it for free if I either baked him a cake or slept with him." Well, what kind of cake did you make?" asks the husband. "What do I look like?" she says, "Betty Crocker?"
A woman is at home when she hears someone knocking at her door. She goes to the door, opens it, and sees a man standing there. He asks the lady, "Do you have a vagina?" She slams the door in disgust. The next morning, she hears a knock at the door. It's the same man, and he asks the woman the same question. "Do you have a vagina?" She slams the door again. Later that night, when her husband gets home, she tells him what has happened for the last 2 days. The husband tells his wife in a loving and concerned voice, "Honey, I am taking off tomorrow so as to be home, just in case this guy shows up again." The next morning, they heard a knock at the door, and they both ran for it. The husband whispers to the wife, "Honey, I'm going to hide behind the door and listen, and if it is the same guy, I want you to answer yes to the question because I want to see where he's going with this." She says yes to her husband and opens the door. Sure enough, the same fellow is standing there. He asks, "Do you have a vagina?" "Yes, I do," says the lady. The man replies, "Good. Would you mind telling your husband to leave my wife's alone and start using yours?" Ops.
A guy stands over his tea and stares for what seems like an eternity, looking up, looking down, measuring the distance, and figuring out the wind direction and speed. Finally, his exasperated partner says, "What's taking so long? Hit the damn ball." The guy answers, "My wife is up there watching me from the clubhouse. I want to make this a perfect shot." "Forget it, man," says his partner. "You'll never hit her from here."
A nice, calm, and respectable lady went into the pharmacy, right up to the pharmacist, looked straight into his eyes and said, "I would like to buy some cyanide." The pharmacist asked, "Why in the world do you need cyanide?" The lady replied, "I need it to poison my husband." The pharmacist's eyes got big, and he exclaimed, "Lord, have mercy! I can't give you cyanide to kill your husband. That's against the law. I'll lose my license. They'll throw both of us in jail. All kinds of bad things will happen. Absolutely not. You can't have any cyanide." The lady reached into her purse and pulled out a picture of her husband in bed with the pharmacist's wife. The pharmacist looked at the picture and replied, "Well now, that's different. You didn't tell me you had a prescription."
A man walks into a barber shop and says, "I'll have a shave and a shoe shine." The barber lathers his face and sharpens the straight edge, while a woman with the biggest, most beautiful body he has ever seen kneels down and shines his shoes. The man says, "You and I should spend some time in a hotel room." She replies, "My husband wouldn't like that." The man says, "Tell him you're working overtime and I'll pay you the difference." She says, "You tell him. He's the one shaving you." Ops.
A wife arrived home after a long shopping trip and was horrified to find her husband in bed with a young, lovely thing. Just as she was about to storm out of the house, her husband stopped her with these words. "Before you leave, I want you to hear how this all came about. Driving home, I saw this young girl, looking poor and tired. I offered her a ride. She was hungry, so I brought her home and fed her some of the roast you had forgotten about in the refrigerator. Her shoes were worn out, so I gave her a pair of your shoes you didn't wear because they were out of style. She was cold, so I gave her that new birthday sweater you never wore even once because the color didn't suit you. Her slacks were worn out, so I gave her a pair of yours that you don't fit into anymore." Then, as she was about to leave the house, she paused and asked, "Is there anything else that your wife doesn't use anymore?" And so, here we are. Ops.
A husband and wife were golfing when suddenly the wife asked, "Honey, if I died, would you get married again?" The husband said, "No, sweetie." The woman said, "I'm sure you would." So the man said, "Okay, I would." Then the woman asked, "Would you let her sleep in our bed?" And the man replied, "Yeah, I guess so." Then the wife asked, "Would you let her use my golf clubs?" And the husband replied, "No, she's left-handed." Ops.
A couple drove down a country road for several miles, not saying a word. An earlier discussion had led to an argument, and neither of them wanted to concede their position. As they passed a barnyard of mules, goats, and pigs, the husband asked sarcastically, "Relatives of yours?" "Yep," the wife replied. "In-laws." Ops.
A wife goes on a retreat for work. When she returns, she finds a pair of pants in her dresser that do not belong to her. Furious, she questions her husband. The husband says, "I have no idea where they came from, I don't do the laundry." So, the wife goes to the maid and questions her. Indignant, the maid replies, "Madam, how should I know? These pants don't belong to me. I don't even wear pants, just ask your husband." Ops.
She yells, "No, I won't sleep with you tonight, you pig." Everyone in the bar stops and stares. Completely embarrassed, the guy slinks back to his table with a red face. After a few minutes, the woman walks over to him and apologizes. She smiles and says, "I'm sorry if I embarrassed you. I'm a graduate student in psychology, and I'm studying how people respond to embarrassing public situations." To which the guy responds as loudly as possible, "What do you mean $200 for a BJ?" Ops.
As a couple gets into bed, the husband starts to rub and kiss his wife. She turns over and says, "I'm sorry, honey. I've got a gynecologist appointment tomorrow, and I want to stay fresh." The husband sadly turns over. A few minutes later, he rolls back over and taps his wife. "Do you have a dentist appointment, too?" Hi, everyone, and thanks for watching my joke video. I hope you enjoyed a good laugh. I know that laughter is good for the soul, and it's especially important for seniors. Laughter can help reduce stress, improve mood, and boost the immune system. So I encourage you to share my jokes with your friends and family. And if you want to see more jokes, be sure to subscribe to my channel. But more importantly, I want to encourage you to laugh every day. Even if it's just a small chuckle, laughter can make a big difference in your overall well-being. So go ahead and laugh. Your health will thank you for it.